Hey guys, so today I've got a long-term review of the 28mm f2. Now, I have a bit of a sentimental attachment to this lens because it was the first lens that I bought when we switched to Sony. I think it was just about 2 years ago now. And here it is. I don't know if you can see it there, but it is absolutely tiny. It comes with a lens hood. It has a 49mm filter thread, metal lens mount, and yeah, 28mm focal length, f2 aperture. At the time when I bought my first Sony camera, the a6500, this was the most affordable fast wide prime. Because the 6500 was APS-C, I bought this as a normal lens. So 28mm on APS-C translates to about 45mm in full frame terms. So it's just wider than normal and pretty perfect, to be honest, for the majority of things. I did a lot of filming on this and I photographed a fair bit on it too as my only lens. So how is it 2 years later? Well, I have to say I've still got it 2 years later, and for me that's a big accomplishment because I either break it or I get bored of it and swap it for something else. And yeah, this is still here. I'll tell you the reasons why I like it, the reasons why I don't like it, but the reasons you might be interested in buying this lens if you're after something kind of cheap, lightweight, fast and wide. So for a start, the reasons why I do like this lens. It works fantastic on APS-C. It is absolutely beautiful, the rendering's really nice, the colours are good, it is fast to focus both for photography and for film, and 45mm is a really nice focal length, and I tend to shoot a lot on the 55mm on full frame, but there is a big difference between 45 and 55, and I do find 45 a lot more comfortable. If there was a 45mm prime for Sony Full Frame that worked with the autofocus and everything, I think I'd be sold and that'd be pretty much my only lens. However, there isn't, so yeah, I'm working with what I've got. I still use this on the A7 in crop mode, Super 35 mode when I'm filming, especially for like wedding ceremonies and speeches as a backup. It's a nice kind of semi-wide field of view, but it's not kind of super wide, it's still usable. I like the fact that it's super small and you can stick that in a pocket easily. I'll just stick it on an A7 body and show you. So here it is, and as I kind of walk around combination, I think it's pretty perfect. It balances well. Obviously the plate on there isn't usually there for photography, but if I'm just going around with a monopod or a little tripod for film, doing some time-lapse stuff, I grab this lens because it's absolutely brilliant. It's really unobtrusive, there's no kind of loud branding on there. It makes you look a little discreet. If you stick some black tape over your Sony badge, then yeah, you're not going to stand out in a crowd with that. On full frame, it is quite wide, it's not super wide, but 28mm can be a really useful focal length, especially for street photography and for some kind of candid moments during weddings, that kind of thing. Moving on to what I don't particularly like about this lens is, the main thing is the distortion, especially in the corners and at the edges of frame. If you're kind of shooting everything kind of bullseye composition straight down the middle, like I'm probably shooting myself now, it's absolutely fine, but as soon as you place something toward the edges, there is quite a bit of distortion, there's some stretching, there's some spherical kind of aberrations going on. Yeah, it's not amazing for that. I mean, with photography, I tend to frame my subjects quite close to the corners most of the time, especially if I'm doing kind of wide environmental portraiture, something like that. I do like to include the things kind of towards the corners, and that's where I place some of the kind of important elements of my pictures. And to have those kind of distorted in such a way isn't brilliant, and it doesn't correct terribly well. Third thing that I don't like about this lens is the onion ring bokeh. I do like it in certain situations, and I think it has kind of a lo-fi look to it, but if you're after super smooth, creamy bokeh balls out of focus areas, then this probably isn't the lens for you. However, the actual amount of bokeh you can produce with this kind of manual focus racked out to infinity is quite remarkable. It's an f2 lens, so it's not kind of super fast, it's not a 1.4, and it is quite wide, so I wouldn't expect the bokeh to be anything kind of near spectacular, but it's actually really impressive. And I've got some examples in a little film that I've made with this lens at the end of this review that I'll show you. Another thing I love about this lens is the price. I mean, it is super cheap. You can get one of these now for £250–300. I mean, I would be tempted to buy one of these for travel. I've spent 2 years shooting this. I haven't managed to break it. It has quite a few kind of dings and scrapes on it, and they do show up because it's just black painted metal essentially, and when you scratch it you can see the metal through it. However, it doesn't really bother me. Now, the reasons I've stopped using this lens as a primary lens, mainly 28mm and me don't really get on. I had this vision when I came from Canon that I was going to shoot two lenses, 28mm, 85mm, and that was going to be it. I shot 35, 50, 85 on Canon, so I had a big variety and I was determined to go super small, super lightweight, super simple, and just not worry about gear, just concentrate on the image, and that was it. But I struggled. I've spent the past 9 years shooting on primarily a 35mm. The only options for 35mm were the horrifically expensive Distagon, which I couldn't do it, or the f2.8 Zeiss, which was still a little bit out of my price range, and f2.8 as a primary lens I wasn't so sure about. I must mention that we actually own two of these. My wife Katie shot on the 28 f2 as a primary lens up until the end of last year. She loved it, but she didn't quite get on with the distortion either. So we actually bought the Zeiss Batis 25mm f2, which is a true 25, has less distortion, still does have distortion. The colours are a little better, the sharpness is a little better, but it is 3 times the price. It's twice the size, it's about the same weight. It doesn't look as kind of unobtrusive, it looks like a big professional lens, which in travel situations I'm a little bit wary of. I'd rather take something small that looks rubbish like this, but is actually a really good performer. And myself, I bought the Sony 35mm 1.8 when it came out, and I'm really happy with that lens so far. It is actually bigger, it is heavier than the 28 f2. Actually, it's what I'm filming me on right now, so that's what it looks like. Except that's in Super 35 mode, so that's actually working as a 50, but it's a cracking lens. It is just twice the price of this. It's a slightly odd filter size as well, 55mm. So if you are a 35mm shooter, I mean, I'd probably go for that instead, just because I found the 28mm focal length a little bit alien coming from a 35 myself. So I'm really happy that that lens exists. Go and check out my review of that lens. Have I enjoyed using this lens? Yes. It got me into the Sony system. It got me hooked. It's super sharp. It is like pixel sharp, especially in the center. I cannot fault it for that. It's just the corner distortion, the onion ring bokeh, and a couple of other little bits and pieces which doesn't quite make it my perfect forever wide lens. So ultimately, I think this is going to be sold to kind of minimize our gear choices, simplify everything right down to the bare essentials. We were at a wedding exhibition the other night, and I had the camera and the 28mm with me, so I did a little bit of filming just to show you what this camera is capable of. It was very low light, it was kind of half an hour after sunset, so it was just about to kind of completely go. We were in a venue which is essentially a greenhouse lit only by fairy lights. So I filmed it all in 4K off the Zhiyun Weebill Lab gimbal, and it'll give you a little bit of an idea of what this lens is capable of in a video situation. I actually love it as a gimbal lens. It focuses really fast, it's quite snappy, it's quite responsive. Because it's so lightweight, it makes a really nice kind of lightweight gimbal walk around setup, and you can really kind of throw it around in POV mode and you don't have to worry about the motors catching up. Tried to do a bit of a kind of outside to in transition through the door, don't know if it worked properly yet, but yeah, you'll see. I've tried to get everything from in focus, low light to show the colours at sunset, low light inside to show the colours of and the saturation like of the fairy lights versus some kind of uplighters and palm trees. There's loads of colour, loads of texture, loads of detail going on. Yeah, I think it looks great, especially in 4K when you can really pick up on the sharpness. So let me know what you think in the comments below. So if you like this video, give it a like, don't forget to subscribe and check out my other videos, and I'll be back soon with some more reviews, unboxings and some how-tos. Until next time, see you later, enjoy the film.